Hey guys, Dude here. Thanks for watching. What is it about graveyards that creeps us out so much? Is it the rows of weathered tombstones, the creak of dead tree branches, or the feeling that someone or something might be watching? Or maybe it's just the reminder of our own mortality, that one day this too will be our resting place. Numerous tales about graveyards have popped up over the centuries. Let me tell you about one of the most chilling graveyard legends. In a quiet corner of a forgotten cemetery lies the grave of a woman known only as the Weeping Bride. The story goes that on her wedding day, her fiancé vanished, leaving her waiting at the altar. Heartbroken, she wandered to the graveyard, where she died of despair beneath an old willow tree. Locals say her ghost still lingers there, dressed in a tattered wedding gown. If you visit the graveyard at midnight, you might hear soft sobbing coming from the willow. Some claim to have seen her standing by the tree, tears streaming down her pale face. But here's the warning. If you get too close, she turns to you and her tears stop. Her eyes, dark and hollow, lock onto yours as she whispers, "Why did you leave me?" If you answer, even in denial, she grabs your hand and you're never seen again. Today, we're digging up the dark history of graveyards. Graveyard superstitions. Graveyards have long been associated with the supernatural. Here's a few eerie beliefs. The midnight hour. It is said that graveyards are most active at midnight, when spirits wander freely. Whistling past the graveyard. An old superstition warns that whistling near a grave can summon restless spirits. Graveyard dirt. In folklore, dirt from a graveyard is said to have magical properties, often used in curses or rituals. The unmarked grave. An unmarked grave is believed to trap a soul, leaving it unable to find peace. The darker side of graveyards. In the 18th and 19th centuries, resurrectionists dug up fresh graves to sell bodies to medical schools for dissection. One infamous case is that of Burke and Hare, two men who supplied Edinburgh's anatomy schools. Although they started by robbing graves, they eventually turned to murder, ensuring fresher specimens for their buyers. Their crimes led to public outrage and the Anatomy Act of 1832, which reformed how medical schools acquired bodies. Witch graves. During the witch trials, supposed witches were buried in unmarked or isolated graves to prevent their spirits from returning. In Salem, many of the accused witches were buried in unmarked graves along the outskirts of the cemeteries. The Pendle witches in England were said to haunt the moors, where their bodies were hastily interred. Cursed tombs. Some graves are said to carry curses for anyone who disturbs them. One chilling example is the cursed chain grave of Carl Pruitt. In the 1930s, a man's grave in Kentucky was said to be cursed after he strangled his wife and took his own life. Those who dared to damage the grave or its chain decorations reportedly met with fatal accidents. Even today, graveyards remain a hotspot for ghost hunters and thrill seekers. Places like Greyfriars Kirkyard in Scotland are known for violent poltergeist activity. And St. Louis Cemetery No. 1 in New Orleans, where Voodoo Queen Marie Laveau is buried, are magnets for the paranormal. People report seeing shadowy figures, hearing voices, and even feeling icy touches. Are these spirits of the dead, or just tricks of the mind? Either way, one thing's for sure. Graveyards hold stories that refuse to be buried. The origins of graveyards. Let's talk about where graveyards come from. In ancient times, people buried their dead in caves, family plots, or communal burial grounds. But as civilizations grew, so did the need for organized burial spaces. By the Middle Ages, Christian traditions gave rise to churchyard cemeteries, burial grounds attached to churches. The closer your grave was to the church, the better your chances of getting to heaven. But with limited space and poor hygiene practices, these burial grounds became, well, overcrowded. This gave rise to the modern graveyard. In the 19th century, the creation of public cemeteries like the sprawling park-like graveyards we're familiar with today, places like Greenwood in Brooklyn and Highgate Cemetery in London, became both resting places for the dead and destinations for the living. With beautiful architecture and rolling hills, these cemeteries were more than just grave sites. People would use cemeteries as public parks before parks existed. In fact, Greenwood Cemetery was the inspiration for creating Central Park in New York City. But no matter how peaceful they seem, graveyards have always been shrouded in mystery and superstition. Next time you visit a graveyard, keep an eye on the shadows. And if you hear soft sobbing or see a woman in white under a tree, don't answer. Until next time, stay curious. Thanks for watching.